Medici. Home to these guys. Him. Her. Her. And this poor dude. And many, many beautiful islands surrounded by turquoise sea. But is it possible to drive from one side of the map to the other without using roads? At first, this may seem like an easy task, especially compared to GTA 4, which is the first video in the series I made. You should definitely go watch that, it's really good, but only after you finish watching this one, due to the lack of urban area. But Medici is far from flat. And oh yeah, did I mention the beautiful turquoise sea? First, let me clarify the rules for this one. I'm not allowed to use any roads where traffic spawns. This also means bridges are out of bounds. Places I am allowed to drive are, obviously just off-road, farmland, dirt tracks and service roads, but I am going to have to be careful as traffic does spawn on some of these. If I find myself in an urban environment, I'm going to have to stick to the alleyways and pedestrianised zones. Railways. I'm also allowed to drive through military bases, as traffic rarely spawns in these. Ideally, I want to take the same vehicle from one side of the map to the other, but it is a vast distance to travel. If my vehicle gets too beat up, I'm allowed to swap to another, but only if I can find it spawned in on the map. To get across the water, I had to take the car with me, and I'm only allowed to use vehicles that have spawned in to help me. Unfortunately, none of the vehicles in Just Cause 3 can float, so I couldn't just drive across the map. Wait, this APC was amphibious the whole time? The whole time? I could have sworn I tested this and it sank. Has this been patched? Oh, for God. This would have saved so much ball ache. Well, I filmed the episode already, so we're going with the boat method. I'm also fully aware of the cargo plane, and I could have simply Fast and Furious 7'd my way across the map, but that really would have defeated the whole point of this challenge. One important but very, very fun thing I had to do first was liberate all the regions I'd be driving through. Who doesn't love blowing shit up in this game? With that done, I could finally start the challenge. The starting location is a helipad on the tiny island of La Galera in the southeastern corner of the map. The finishing line is a very unassuming sandbank on the north coast of the volcano in the far northwestern corner of the map. It's going to be a long drive. To make it across the map, the plan is to island hop. Ideally, I want to spend as little time as possible on boats. It's surprisingly easy to lose a vehicle at sea, and we obviously don't want this to happen. Luckily, on the helipad I found this abandoned Weimaraner 4x4 that no one was using. An important step is to get rid of the passenger. On one of my practice playthroughs, this happened. Some say he's still driving to this day. The challenge will begin at sunrise. The first step of the journey is simple, just a quick drive across La Galera to the docks on the north side of the island. There I could find a boat and hop across to the next island. According to the rules, I could have easily driven on the roads here, as it's a military base, and traffic doesn't spawn here, but I decided to off-road it across the base anyway, get a feel for the vehicle, and test out its off-road capabilities. And before I knew it, I was already at the northern side of the island, and had a couple of boats to choose from. One of the boats that commonly spawns here is the CS Power Run 77, a medium-sized patrol boat with a nice flat deck where my 4x4 would sit comfortably. Rico took this opportunity for a morning dip to help wake him up after being awake since the early hours of this morning. When it came to sailing, I'd still have to be very cautious. Many of my vehicles found a watery grave on several playthroughs when I was practicing this run, so I'd have to sail cautiously and not go too fast over the waves. It was a relatively short sail to the next island of Scirocco. With a nice landing location in sight, it was time to beach the boat. This will make it easier to unload the vehicle, without the risk of getting it too wet. It was now just a case of gently unloading my 4x4 from the back of the boat. How hard could this be? Yeah, so that didn't really go according to plan at all, and the poor 4x4 is now completely battered. Luckily, Sirocco is only a small island when you compare it to the mainland, so all I have to do is drive cautiously, and try not to bang up my vehicle anymore. I'm currently down here, just north of the beach at the south end of the island. The goal is the naval base at Portovina. There are plenty of boats here to choose from. That'll help me along with the next leg of my journey. It was also in Sirocco I came face to face with my nemesis. A road covered in traffic. The ground around here is quite smooth, so it was time for some 4x4 action. On the map I noticed there was a dirt track that led to some farmland. Farmland means fields, and fields means flat, which would be perfect to get across the map. Yep, that's it, the farms are just the end of this track. Just here, just a gentle, smooth... Oh, that's a, okay, screw it. We're jumping, we're going for it. Ouch, yeah, so the plan to keep this 4x4 in one piece, well, yeah, it went out the window as soon as I saw a jump. You can't not go over a jump. Hey, I'm a simple man, I see a jump, I'm gonna go over it. The plan would remain the same, cut through these fields and get to Portovina. The base not only has boats, but I'm sure I'll find a vehicle to swap for this one. And hopefully this time I can take better care of it. Every bump and jump in this thing was making me very nervous. I felt like it was gonna catch fire any second and blow up in my face. But it had made it to Portovina. After driving around a little bit, I spotted a buggy that I decided I wanted to be the perfect vehicle to continue on with my journey. Something light and fast and really good off-road. I hadn't spent much time with the little Vinara 4x4, but I wanted to give it a Viking funeral nonetheless, so I attached some exploding thrusters onto its rear, in the hope that it would enter the water, flow majestically across the bay, before bursting into flames. But just cause being just cause, physics never work quite how you expect. And the Viking funeral almost turned into a sky burial, so yeah, that wasn't really the most dignified ending for it, but oh well, we mourn, we move on. With the buggy secure, it was time to go find myself a boat. Luckily, I found the perfect vessel for the job. Say hello to the Erga Hrotch, a military landing craft, with a little ramp at the front to get on off. I would be spared a repeat of the humiliation that was the previous unloading attempt. With some quick thinking and using my grapple, I got the lander into position. And it was a nice little hop for the buggy to enter the craft. Now to navigate our way out this port, and head on to the next island. There was one small obstacle in between me and the ocean, and that was the port's massive gate. That's nothing a little grappling and button pushing won't fix. With the gate open, we could sail on to our next destination. Ignore that small island with the satellite dish, we're not going there. The next island we're heading to is the biggest one yet, Elefante. And best of all, there was no need to be cautious with this boat. The buggy was safe and sound, with no risk of falling into the ocean. But this being a military landing craft, I'd have to find myself a nice smooth beach to land on. Looking at the south coast of Elefante, this proved a bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be. There wasn't really a lot of choices of places to land. My first plan was to go through the caves here. I thought it'd be pretty cool. But you're very quickly met with a literal stone wall. I had to go at hoisting vehicles up here, but yeah, it was never going to happen. So that leaves us with plan B. A small beach with a pier, just next to the beautiful town of Colle Sal Rosa. From here I could head up the nice wide valley, heading towards more flat ground, and the farmland beyond. With the beach in sight, it was time for this lander to do what it was built for. Well, thank F for that. That was a million times smoother than the last one. Right, let's get across this island then. For the goal of this island, I decided to shake things up a bit. I didn't want to head to another port for another amphibious crossing. Instead, we're heading for a tiny base at the north end of the island, called Guardia Pelagia, where my next mode of transport will be waiting. I left the lander behind and headed inland. As I mentioned before, there's a lovely wide valley here, full of beautiful meadows I could drive through. So I headed under this bridge and drove parallel to one of the island's main roads. It was time to find out what this buggy could do, and it was handling the off-road terrain beautifully. I don't know why I didn't start with the buggy, to be honest. It seems to be handling way better than that 4x4. The meadows eventually turned into a vineyard, so I decided to help out with the grape stomping and drive straight through. As I exited the little forest, there was a moment of peace as nature's beauty reveals itself to me. Anyway, enough of that. I have a challenge to complete. Medicine stakes, anyone? The flat terrain was starting to turn a bit more hilly, and then I gave a motorcyclist the fright of his life. That dude clearly has some skill as he didn't even flinch. After making more Pinot Grigio, I came across this beautiful aqueduct to drive under. There's ruins like this all over the map. They really are a nice touch. It gives Medici a sense of history. But I don't have time for historical sightseeing. Up the hill we go. It was time for a tricky descent. Lessons have been learned from my disastrous drive on the 4x4. I'm going to be taking it easy. I really want this buggy to make it to the end. You know, that means I have to take it slow sometimes, we'll just have to deal with it. I will just speed up time again in the editing. I don't particularly want this video to run over 2 hours long. Just past these random pipes, I was going to be cautious again. I'm currently driving above a huge cave system, and there are sinkholes everywhere. If my buggy falls down one, it's game over and a hard reset. And I really don't want to be buggering around with those boats again. After another quick uphill section, which the buggy took in its stride, I crossed the freeway, and I'd reached the farmlands. Finally, some nice flat ground I can put my foot down. Sunflowers, poppies, wheat, lavender, they were all no match for my 4x4 buggy. I teared through them like they were nothing. This truly is a lovely piece of the map again. I know I keep talking about how beautiful this map is, but it really is something. Just look at the bright colours. Charging through the farmland, I felt like I was finally making some progress, dodging around farmhouses and using the occasional dirt track. Unfortunately, this quick burst of speed didn't last too long, and I quickly found myself at the edge of all this agriculture. With more steep slopes ahead of me, I decided the best course of action was to follow these fields down to the coast. Hopefully there I could find some nice flat beaches. I could follow the shoreline round to the small village, with the base just beyond it. I enjoyed this burst of speed while it lasted, a nice gentle slope down to the coastline. I was greeted by beautiful white sand beaches and azure blue sea. Now all I had to do was follow these golden ridges around the coast. How hard could that be? Surely nothing could go wrong. Spoiler alert, it kind of does go wrong. The golden white sands had betrayed me. They didn't last very long at all, and I'd quickly found myself on a very rocky coastline. It was time to test out the wading depth of this buggy. Turns out it was pretty decent, but then I was met with this very rocky outcrop, and things got very, very hairy indeed. I'd already lost enough vehicles to the ocean. I did not want to lose another one and have to start again. I ended up pretty much driving sideways across this cliff, and then after a stupid mistake, disaster. The route seemed over. I would have to start again. Well, that would be the case if this was any other game, but this is just Cause 3, and this game has one thing that most of the games do not have: the grapple. Could this logic-bending piece of game design help me out of this disastrous situation? The answer, rather unbelievably, is yes. The buggy had enjoyed its wash, courtesy of Davy Jones, but surely the engine wouldn't start. That would be so stupid and unrealistic. But of course, this is Just Cause. Stupidity and unrealism reign supreme, and I continue on with my journey. I travelled around the coast for another 300 meters when I found myself stuck again. The small cove in the cave ahead meant this as far as I could go following the coast, so I was going to have to climb an almost vertical cliff face. I feared it was too steep, even for this mountain goat of a buggy, but could the grapple which had just saved my ass do it again? Of course it could, dear viewer, as if you had any doubt in the Holy Grapple, the saviour of this no-road challenge. With the coastline being an absolute bust, it was time to start driving inland again. I was surprised to be greeted by beautiful flat fields. The farmland doesn't really show up on the map here, but I wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Even if these fields were full of crops and not horses, I was just glad to put my foot down again and make some progress, even if it would only be for a short while. This dirt road also meant I could charge ahead. No civilian traffic spawns on this one, so I'm allowed to use it. The same can't be said for that tarmac road there, so time for a sharp right. Ahead of me sat the small village of Serpicchio. Well, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it anyway. This will be the only real urban environment of my journey. That's even if you can call this sleepy village urban. My previous adventure in GTA 4, driving across the massive Liberty City, should make this village seem like child's play. I'll have to utilise the alleyways and pedestrian paths here, as well as anything else I can find. I'm so close to the base now, it's just on the other side. In a game where you can break your fall by grappling the ground and reeling into it at high speed, I was surprised to find out it had realistic wrought iron gate physics. They were quite satisfying to smash through. I then headed through the old police station and up a hill. These ruins provided a nice open space to drive round, but there was a sheer drop just around the corner. I had to use these stairs to get down, which called for some very technical and fiddly driving. This whole area felt extremely claustrophobic, especially after driving around those big open spaces for so long. I dropped down and found myself in a piazza, much to the bewilderment of the local Medicians. I crossed the village's main road and drove on the sidewalk for a bit. It was in a tight left, and then down some more stairs onto a terrace. It was then a fun little ramp up a balcony and onto a dirt track. I successfully made it through the village. back out into the countryside along this dirt track. The base is just up ahead. Excuse me, Farmer Giles, shouldn't you be tending to your fields? I'm not classing him as a vehicle spawn. This dirt track is obviously a utility road. It just dead ends both sides. It's pointless. Anyway, moving on. I've just got a full site to navigate, and how I get to the next island will all be revealed. Ta-da! There we have it, helicopters. This is how I will get across to the next island. Obviously the buggy has to come with me, so I'm going to be attaching it to the helicopter and airlifting it across. I assumed this chonky looking helicopter would have a decent amount of lifting power, and the buggy should be quite light. So I thought this would be pretty easy, but on a practice run I gave the helicopter full throttle and yeah, this happened. So this wasn't going to be as easy as it first seemed. To be honest, I probably made the tether way too long for this one. The swaying of the buggy made the helicopter very unbalanced, so I was going to have to take it slow and cautious. Luckily, it would only be a very short flight across this narrow stretch of water. Up ahead, the town of Elefante. There was a nice big flat beach here, so I had to have plenty of room to drop off my buggy. Then at last I would have made it onto the main island, the biggest single drive of the challenge. But I still had to get there, which called for some very slow and cautious flying. Let's just do a little flying montage, shall we? Otherwise we'll be here all day. After flying level and cautiously, I started my descent, and that's when the trouble started. I was descending too quickly, and the buggy began swinging around like a wrecking ball. It nearly swung up and joined me in the cockpit, but I composed myself, hovered, and it settled itself down. And I started to descend again, gently this time. I was still giving the sunbathers quite a show at this point. Luckily the ground is very open and flat here, which makes my life a bit easier. The buggy had safely touched down. I detached it and landed safely. This part of the mission had been a success, and we were here, the main island. There was only one more stretch of water after this, but first we're going to have to cross the main island, which is big. Way bigger than the previous three I've just crossed put together. The next thing I had to worry about was a pretty major obstacle on this island. There is a massive concrete wall dividing the civilian area to the south and the militarized zone to the north. Obviously I'm going to have to find a way through or over this wall. Elefante is surrounded by farmland, so let's begin with that and see where we end up. I can only assume she got her €7 back from renting that sunbed and parasol. But the no road challenge stops for no woman, man or deer. My trip across the main island started nice and simple. Beach turned into meadow, turned into farmland. And nothing really exciting happened, so let's just skip ahead a bit, shall we? Then something really exciting happened. I saw some cows. If you think I'm going to deliberately run over these beautiful, majestic creatures, you've got another thing coming. Cows deserve our utmost respect. As you can see ahead of me, there's the wall. That's what I'm going to have to get through. There is a pretty large gate ahead of me, but it's out of bounds because civilian traffic drives straight through it. Unlike those wooden fences, I couldn't just simply smash my way through the massive concrete wall like the Kool-Aid Man. I headed left and did a bit of off-roading through a forest, and then a little hill climb, before reaching the foot of the wall. Here I found a nice little utility track, so I decided to follow it. So far the main island had been very kind to me, providing decent flat ground, happy cows, and now a nice dirt track to follow. It looked like things were finally going my way and would be simple. I then passed a wide open gate. This seemed way too good to be true, so I was suspicious and carried on. Almost felt like it was a trap. I felt like things were running far too smoothly, and something was going to jump out and get me. The dirt track then suddenly ended at this closed gate. It was clearly obvious that I wasn't supposed to go through here, so I decided to go through here. The grapple saves the day once again. Clearly a spindly tether is no match for a massive steel door. After taking a sharp left, I found that I was actually now on top of the wall. So I decided to drive across it. was heading in the direction I needed to go anyway, and plus I got to do some fun little jumps as well. The buggy was really proving itself to be a very hardy little thing indeed. It had already been so much and covered a great distance. It was still in just as good a condition when I stole it from that military base 3 islands ago. So I'd now made it over the wall. Where to next? I still had to cross the water to get to the volcano. There was one obvious place to get to next, the Trident, a naval base that gets its name for very obvious reasons. This sits in the most northern western tip of the island. Again, I could commandeer a boat and sail across to the volcano. But there is a lot of uneven ground between me and the base. Mountains, quarries, lakes. These would be treacherous to navigate, but luckily there was a simple way. I'd experienced many challenges during this trip, so I decided to give myself the easy route for once. These railways run right around the island and would be an easy ticket to get to where I needed to go, so it was the obvious choice. As I crossed the grassland, you can see the train ahead getting more and more mountainous. I wanted to avoid this for as long as possible, and I spotted a lake on the map. I decided to make my way towards that, as the banks of the lake will be nice and flat and give me a nice route round to get closer to the train tracks. It'll certainly be easier than navigating this forest. I had to keep my wits about me as I weaved in between trees and bounced over logs and rocks. I was met with a beautiful crystal clear lake and white sands. I was having PTSD flashbacks to the coastline again, but this time things would go a lot smoother, and I had a very enjoyable ride around the side of the lake. And I wasn't afraid to get the tires wet. Hopefully now my bad luck was over, and the rest of the route would be simple. My relaxing getaway by the lake was over. It was time to turn north and drive the short distance to the rail tracks. This meant I needed to take the buggy for another quick hike through the woods. I actually almost drove over the train tracks without even realizing it. I was on top of a tunnel, but a quick check on the map, and I realized all I had to do was drive down this embankment, and then I'd be there. A quick reminder to all you out there. Railways are very dangerous places. Please keep away from them. If you do have to cross a railway line, make sure you look both ways, as I'm about to here. See, if I'd just gone for it, I would have been a pancake right now. But luckily now it was safe to follow the line. I could put my foot down once more, and head northwest, following the train tracks. Some of you may think this is cheating. And maybe you're right, but I made the rules very clear at the start. I'm allowed to use train tracks. It's the no road challenge, not the no railroad challenge. I made very quick progress and flew across the island. Nothing of any interest really happened along this journey. Sure, there were plenty of cool trains to look at. Things got a little hairy when I had to overtake one heading in the same direction as me. Okay, here we go. I think it's clear. And go 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 go. Ah, come on, get past, get past. Oh, nearly there. Done it. Okay. Whew. That could have gone a lot worse. I was now on the northwestern tip of the island. The Trident was so close, but there was one more hill I'd have to get past. Obviously I can't just drive down this nice gentle road to get there, but there is this dirt track that takes me up and over the hill, so I decided to take it. My newfound love of speed continues as I tore across this runway and through an airfield. It was then a nice little drive up this hill. There it is below me, the Trident. You can see it just through the trees. What a glorious sight to behold. Unfortunately, between me and the base is a sheer cliff, which I can't just simply drive down. So I'm going to have to follow this track a little bit further up and around to see if I can find a more gentle slope down to it. Unfortunately, the cliff just kept going, so that meant I had to just keep going as well. The track then ended at this little shack. Hopefully I'll be able to find a safe way down just past here. Okay, so the terrain is still pretty steep here. I'm just going to have to go for it, aren't I? Luckily, it looks like the ground levels off a bit below me, so I'm not just going to drive straight into the ocean. Looks like we're going to do some proper off-roading here. Well, to be honest, that went a lot smoother than I thought it would. That drop wasn't so big after all. Right, the base should be just here, just around this corner. Just past all these trees here. Yep. It's going to be nice and easy, just a gentle drive through the woods, nice and flat, avoiding the logs, and oh my god, that's, I'm nowhere near the bottom yet. There's still a long way to go down. Oh well, there's only one thing for it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, I guess. Okay, it really is going to be squeaky bum time for this one. I just have to take it easy. Go gentle on the accelerator, be ready to slam down the brakes if anything gets out of hand. Phew, made it. Right, now this better be the bloody bottom. After more off-roading and scaring the local wildlife half to death, I caught a glimpse of the Trident in between the trees. It was just around this corner. I was so close to the final leg of the journey. I'd come so far, I couldn't possibly screw it up now. After driving over some smooth, undulating, grassy hills, I was there, the Trident. And of course, this being a military base, I'm allowed to drive through it, as traffic doesn't spawn here. But it wasn't the most graceful of entrances, I have to be honest. Right, I'm here, the Trident. Now to find myself a boat. I probably could have found myself a landing craft, as that tactic worked so brilliantly last time, but I'd used 3 different vehicles, so why not go for a 4th? And there's one vehicle in particular I had in mind. Thanks for opening the gate for me, guys. Appreciate it. Right, okay, I know they spawn around here somewhere, just off to the left. And there she is. This little beauty is going to get me across the last stretch of water. This sexy beast is simply known as the Corvette, and she'll be perfect for my last little water crossing. Well, I say little, it's going to be the longest water crossing of the trip. Like I did with the lander, I used my grapples to get the Corvette into the perfect position. It was then just a nice little hop on with the buggy. Snug as a buggy in a tug. As beautiful as this Corvette is, she's a big girl. And not very maneuverable, with the turning circle of a large office building. So prepare yourself for more thrilling gameplay as I gently turn a boat in a harbour. With my prow pointing towards the volcano, it was weigh the anchor, hoist the mainsails. Other pirate jargon, let's go! Nothing nice waited for me here. Just steep slopes, lava, and ruins. This would be a very interesting end to the challenge. The map doesn't really give away a lot of what's here. There's no towns, no roads, nothing. It's hard to judge how steep the slopes are, so finding my way across is going to be difficult. This crossing would be fairly uneventful. So yeah, let's just have a nice little sailing montage, shall we? With the coastline in view, I could see a suitable landing point, so I did a quick maneuver and reversed in, beaching the stern of the Corvette to give myself the best chance of getting off without getting the tyres wet. So, here I am, the volcano. Let's try and find a way up and over, shall we? The finishing point is on the north side, so I'm going to have to go up and over this thing. I'd reconned the area before, and found a little sandbank on the north coast. It's pretty much the only piece of flat ground out there, and the only place I could realistically reach. This place would be the ultimate off-road test. Things started off simple. It was a nice gentle slope, with grass and bushes. I was outside the tree line, but this wouldn't last for long, as I'd have to enter the large forested hillsides. This place would prove to be very difficult. The tree cover here is denser than anything I've previously encountered. It's very easy to get disorientated around here. I can't see what's happening ahead of me. I just have to keep following the slope up, and hope things don't get too steep. I kept climbing, and things got more and more rocky. I was still quite worried about the buggy's condition. It had made it this far. Who knows how long it would be until the thing started smoking. I was avoiding logs best I could, but it's almost impossible in this dense woodland. Then I was met with sheer cliffs. How on earth was I going to get through here? I knew there was a way, it was just a matter of finding it. I got myself pretty lost at this point, with there being no clear landmarks or reference points. I was stuck here for a good 10 minutes, trying to find the way through. There was one very nerve-wracking bit, where I thought I was going the wrong way, but nope, sheer cliff face down to the ocean. That would not have been a happy ending. I even had to get out and climb up, to see if I could eyeball a way through. Then at last, I spotted a slope. It was still pretty steep, but it looked doable, so I decided to go for it. I reached the base of the cliff I wanted to climb, and the buggy embraced its inner Skyrim horse to drive up a very steep rocky cliff. And I did it, I was up, but still not quite at the top. But this snowy valley seemed gentle enough for me to get up and over the ridge and then down the other side. The landscape at this point had taken a turn of the alpine. There was thick snow and frozen fir trees. I was definitely at the top now. Now to find a way down. The terrain then fell away ahead of me. This was not going to be a nice gentle descent, but it was the only way down, so I said a few Hail Marys and went for it. The way down appeared treacherously steep at first, but there were multiple gullies I could safely navigate to get myself down. If things weren't tricky enough, it started to rain. This only added to the difficulty. It'd now be even easier to lose control on the descent down. I feared the worst and had visions of me losing control of the buggy entirely, and it tumbling down a cliff face and bursting into flames, or potentially landing in the ocean. But I had to put those thoughts to the back of my mind. Keep cool and drive cautiously. Don't go mad. I'm so close. It'd be devastating to lose it all in the final stretch. I was yet again met with more thick forest. Things got very tense. There were bushes as tall as the buggy everywhere. I could hardly see where I was going, and the rain was still coming down. I just had to do my best and look at the trees, try and weave in between them, and hope I don't stumble my way off a sheer cliff face. This forest just felt never-ending. I just kept driving and driving and driving, still going downhill. The rain was making visibility poor. I could see the sea ahead of me, but I had no idea how close I was to it. There was nothing I could do, just keep heading downhill, and hope I don't find myself being too over-enthusiastic and charging directly into the sea. Finally the trees thinned out and I could see the sea. I had made it. Victory was almost at hand. I just had to find the sandbank, where the finish line was. I would have done it. I stopped and had a quick look round. Ah, there it is. Right, here we go. Luckily the terrain at this point wasn't too steep, so I could simply drive around the corner and get to it. There's one tiny water splash in between me and the sandbank. God, I really hope this thing isn't too deep. Well, even if it is, I could just winch the buggy out again. Luckily, it wasn't. The buggy had splashed straight through. And there it was! I'd done it! I successfully crossed the map without using a single road. This journey took well over an hour. It truly had been an epic adventure, full of highs and lows. But at last, it was complete. And the little buggy had done it. Oh yeah, there was a 4x4, wasn't there? But forget about them. The buggy had done it. and deserved an honourable send-off. So, time for another Viking funeral. Okay, let's make it a whirling dervish funeral, I guess. Is that a thing? I don't know. Well, if it isn't, I've just invented it. And with the challenge complete, there truly was only one way to celebrate. A fireworks display. And by fireworks display, I mean attaching a bunch of thrusters to a folk band and watching them blow up. Never change, Just Cause. Never change. Thanks for watching me run. I've been Foolish Pedro. I think this is the longest video I've ever made, but it was very fun to do. I really want to continue this series going, so please like, share and subscribe, and help it find more of an audience. Next time I hope to cover Watch Dogs 2. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. It turned into a truly epic adventure. Well, I'll hope to see you there.